Let's talk now to Kira Rudik, who is, of course, a Ukrainian MP, a Voice Party leader, a woman that we've spent a lot of time talking to over the last couple of years. She was in the studios just a few months ago. Kira, how are you?
Hello, Mike, and thank you so much for having me.
No, not at all. I've been following your tweets, of course, as ever. It's been a pretty dark time in the last few weeks in Ukraine. There's been lots of bombings, lots of missile attacks, lots of burned out buildings. How are you doing?
Well, we are devastated because every single night these attacks continue. And what we have witnessed over the past months is that Russia is not that good in defending their own territory, but they are very proficient in conducting terrorist attacks on our territory. And this is why it is so critical for us to get the permission to use the Western weapons to attack military objects inside Russia, to protect us, so we can basically really survive.
And the United Nations is meeting this week, even as we speak. They started it yesterday. They're going to talk today. They're going to talk tomorrow, of course. Vladimir Zelensky is going to be making an appeal, I think, to the UN, in which he's going to ask for, you know, more battle-ready equipment, more weapons, more money in order to finish the job. What do you expect him to say?
Well, we know what he's going to say. He will talk about what is happening in Ukraine and the plans that we discovered that Russia planned to attack our nuclear stations. And it is, of course, devastating. And what President Zelensky is pleading is just do the job the UN was created for. Keep the international law working and make sure that the justice is restored. We have not seen United Nations being able to do any of that over the last couple of years. And there is then a question of the effectiveness and efficiency of an organization that is having the country terrorist on their board and is unable to execute on any plan that they have because Russia is blocking it with their powers, and they are having China supporting Russian initiatives. So the question is like what to do, and the more important question is who is an adult in the room? Who is going to make the decisions that are necessary? And we had high hopes on Joe Biden, and right now we are watching closely the United States elections because our physical survival depends on who is going to be sitting in the White House.
Right.
And of course, it's hard.
And what's your view of Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump? I mean, my view, before I ask you for yours, is that Donald Trump, at least you know what you can expect from him. You know, he's a little bit, shall we say, unpredictable, but he's very clearly a man that can get peace arranged. You know, he managed to get the Iranians to quieten down. He managed to get Vladimir Putin to do very little while he was in charge. I'm not so sure about Kamala Harris.
Well, you know, we wouldn't know until the new president is in the White House. However, I can tell you by the statements that they make, we here in Ukraine are very much concerned by Donald Trump's promise to finish the war in one day and to basically find a really simple solution to a complicated problem. President Zelensky invited Donald Trump to Ukraine to observe with his own eyes what's happening after those statements. And I think what needs to be very clear that we are going to work with anyone who Americans will elect, but it is so crucial for us that this person understands the danger that Russia possesses, the danger that China possesses, and is able to execute strongly, quickly, and with end result in mind. Because what is happening right now, we have received many political promises, but they did not become weapons in hands of our soldiers. And again, it's a pure survival question for us. So we are really hopeful that, first of all, President Zelensky will come back home with the decision of using Western weapons inside Russia. It could be formal or informal decision, but we really need it. Otherwise, it will be very hard to survive winter for us. And the second point is we hope that President will be able to show our real dedication to bipartisan support. Because for us, the main question will be who will help us to survive.
Yes. I mean, if NATO regards Britain's sort of view of Ukraine and the fight and the battle and all the rest of it to be unusual, and NATO decides not to allow more weapons to be sold, or wants to turn down the ability for Britain to sell more weapons into Ukraine, does that mean Britain should stand alone?
Well, you guys have been one of our strongest allies, and in many times you have been pioneers of making the decisions that no one else would do, starting with some wide-range weapons and getting the tanks, etc., etc. So we, of course, expect that this leadership will continue, and we are so grateful for that.
That's very kind of you. And what's going on the ground at the moment? Because the last time I think we spoke, there was an incursion, obviously, by Ukraine into Russia. You know, the Russians weren't happy about that, but there was quite a devastating attack being mounted, if you like, by the Ukrainian forces into Russian territory. Is that still ongoing?
Yes, of course, it's going. And you know why it is important? Not only on the support of the morale of Ukrainians and of the democratic world, but right now all the voices that said, oh, we need to freeze the war where it is, Ukraine needs to accept the reality. All these voices are calmed right now, because to accept the reality, so-called, will mean that Russia will lose their territories as well. And I don't think many leaders of the world are ready to that. So for us, it is important to continue this operation to stop anyone from pushing us into settling into some kind of freezing of the conflict. And of course, it is important for Russia to show the world that they are unable to defend their own territories. So all their threats, all their red lines, Third World War promises, etc., they are just simple bluff.
Yeah. And do you think there's a chance that Vladimir Putin's army is going to run out of people, or going to run out of weapons, or are they still in pretty good shape? Because one of the worries that we all have, I suppose in the West, is the growing kind of conflagration of Russia and Iran together.
Well, of course, the authoritarian regimes will be uniting and working together, and they are. And it is not only Russia and Iran, it's also North Korea, and it is also China, and there are proofs of that. So would they run out of people or weapons near time soon? I don't think so. While the Western world is debating of how much the Europe needs to strengthen itself, Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran are building drone factories, are mobilizing their people, and building more military objects. And it is the reality that the West needs to face. We are the front line of this war, but what would happen if we fail? I think we are not talking enough about that.
Okay. Very good to hear from you, Kira. Stay safe, and thank you very much indeed, as ever, for talking to us. We'll see you hopefully over here very shortly. Kira Rudik, the Voice Party leader, Ukrainian MP, of course, as well.